Well, good morning and welcome to the Church Office podcast. A real joy to welcome Jules and Andy today, part of the UCAN team. Guys, thank you for taking your time to get on the podcast with us and have a chat to us. Jules, tell us a bit about yourself, what you're involved in church-wise and work.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jules. I'm based down in southwest London, and as well as UCAN, I'm a director of UCAN, a voluntary director there. I work for New Wine, which is New Wine England. I'm the executive director for New Wine England. I've been in that role for coming up for 4 years. What that role means, really, New Wine England is it's a network or a movement of local churches. We've got a few thousand there. People describe us in different ways. We've been going for over 30 years. My role there is administrative. So I run the head office central team. We have about 30 staff and run all the things that church administrators have to do, finance, logistics, strategy, all that kind of stuff in the New Wine thing as well. Church world, I'm part of a small church plant down in Feltham in southwest London. I say small, we're about 50 now. We launched 3 years ago. It's been a heck of a ride, and it's as a small church plant that's launched has really needy community we're in, but really exciting times.
Hey, fabulous. That's great. Thanks. Andy, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Andy. I'm based in Guildford in Surrey, which is also just southwest of London, but not close enough to be counted as southwest London. We are Surrey. I'm one of the executive directors for UCAN, so I do that as part of my day job. I'm spending sort of time on a week-by-week basis helping run the activities of the network and put together some of the resources of the network. When I'm not doing that, the other part of my week, I'm a freelance church consultant. I do consultancy for churches and charities across the UK, really looking at areas of operational leadership and management, governance. I love talking about governance. I love talking about staff and HR. I love getting my hands involved in processes and policies and what systems are aligned with what we're working, and I've been doing that sort of as my full-time focus for the last couple of years. Before that, I was an ops director at 2 Anglican churches in the southeast for a combined time of about 15 years. So I've been church operations born and bred. It's been my sole work, focus since I was, 18 or 19 years old. I think at one point I was the UK's youngest operations director, and that church very bravely decided to give me a go.
Thank you both for being here. You've got so much experience between the two of you, and you guys are leading UCAN, the UK Church Administrators Network, and that has grown, hasn't it, over the last 10, 15 years. What are the numbers of churches that are involved in the network now?
So, it's always hard to tell exact numbers of churches. Our membership is just under 1,800 at the moment. It was launched in 2009, so however long that is now, 12 years ago. I'm sure that plots out on a graph as some sort of nice, 100 people per year, but that's not really the journey. There's been peaks and troughs, and that's one of the real joys and excitements of UCAN. So, I would guess, around about 1,000 churches represented in there, and there's a sort of quite a healthy split between those who are part of the network in what we call a senior ops manager type role, and those who are either solo practitioner administrators or administrators on the teams of those ops directors. And we certainly try and make sure that our resources and our events cater to the full spectrum of the ops life. So we're equally happy talking about finance or news sheet or comms or building management or churchyard. I wouldn't say we're equally happy talking about churchyard administration. Who is happy talking about churchyard administration? But it is very important and it needs to be done. So we won't turn our nose up at it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, on a previous podcast, we talked to John Trescott, who was really one of the founding, members, I guess, his passion, and grateful for, him establishing a platform for church administrators and operations directors to be recognised and to be valued. And you guys have taken on that mantle, I suppose. Jules, how did you get involved in UCAN?
Just hearing the name John Truscott actually was part of my story. So John, I'm sure if you're watching this at any point, you'll not thank me for saying this, but you are one of my heroes and we remain always as one of my heroes. So it was really, I got involved in UCAN 2021, we're now probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was thanks to a contact in the church. So I also worked as a church ops director for just under 7 years in an Anglican church in Twickenham. And as I went into that role, the person was there before me. She said, you must get in contact with Andy Bagwell, actually, in the Surrey Plus local group, and get in contact with UCAN. That's the first time I'd heard of it, kind of a change of baton in my role, said, must get in touch with UCAN. So I did. And if I'm really honest, Gavin, maybe some listeners will identify with this. I kind of went in, the work felt too busy to have time to really explore UCAN. So I didn't for a little while. And then got to a point where I thought, there's so much to do in this one area. It was health and safety at the time. Thought I need some professional resource. So I was Googling UCAN, came across then John Truscott as in running the organisation at that time. For me, the moment of getting involved was going to a residential event with a senior manager, Tia, up in Kings Park. And I went up there kind of testing it out. I got my membership, but kind of tested it out. And I walked in, for the first time, I found people that really understood what church administration in that world was like. And it felt like coming home, honestly. Yeah. So I went on and then found myself pretty quickly just challenged by God to just offer to get involved somehow. That was 6 years ago. And I find myself now, John did a kind of a transition to us in 2017 of him sitting down to concentrate on his consultancy work. And it was just the Lord, actually, just kind of getting me in the fold, really. And then from the moment I got involved in UCAN, I was like, this is such a need. So, that's my story.
I love that. That's brilliant. So, Andy, what would you, for someone who's never heard of UCAN or a listener that might be listening in from a different country or even from around the UK, certainly churches in Wales, it's only been the last year that I found out about UCAN. How would you describe the vision for UCAN? What are you guys trying to achieve?
I mean, the focus of UCAN it is very much on maintaining it as a membership network. It is primarily peer-to-peer support, and again, that's how I found it, because when you start a new role and you suddenly go, there are a whole bunch of areas that I don't know about, and where do I go for it? When I started in 2004, there just wasn't anything out there, and I remember getting in contact with Jules's predecessor and saying, you do this sort of role at a similar sized church. Can we meet up and talk? And that was hugely helpful. And there were a few others around who I said, can I buy you coffee or grab lunch with you and just tell me stuff. And really that's at the heart of the vision of UCAN. It's about not reinventing the wheel. It's about sharing wisdom and experience, and sometimes actually, sharing actual work that we've done. If we've drafted a policy or a template, or we've run a project in a certain way and it felt like it's gone really well, well then let's share that. So ultimately, what is UCAN? It's a membership network of people who do similar jobs to all of us, who think like we do, and are all on a slightly different stage of the journey, and we're better together. And it's great to do it together, because one of the common things that we get fed back to us at UCAN events is it feels quite lonely being in church administration. I mean, for some people, they are the entire administration team, and therefore, not only are they doing all the work, but they're also receiving most of the sort of the niggles and complaints and frustrations are being fed back to them. They may be one of the only people who actually think like they do about the need for risk assessing something. I mean, what's that? Why do we need a risk assessing? Or why do we need to plan? Why can't we just wing it? So it's great to get people together and to actually, you're not in this on your own. And to value that calling. I mean, we've always been a huge proponent of the fact that administration is a spiritual gift. It's a ministry. It's not there's church ministry and then there's administration. It's a ministry. It's vital to the health and effectiveness of the church, and it's such a joy to get people together and encourage them in that and say, we want to stand with you in this.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Anything to add to that, Jules?
I think the only thing I'd add is our vision for it is just more of the same, but we are unashamedly passionate that, as Andy said, that administration is needed in the body of Christ.
Absolutely, yeah.
The gift itself is valued, needs to be recognised, and then those that are operating that gift need to be valued, recognised, and never alone. So that's where, as Andy said, it's a network. For us, the vision for UCAN is that valuing of the gift, but that everybody's got a place of connection that they can find really easily. So that, to be honest with you, those kind of moments where maybe late on a Thursday night, somebody's almost weeping over the fact they can't get a rota slot filled on a Sunday morning. In that moment, they don't go into the nobody understands or I'm isolated. And if they need it, there's a relational network that they know they're part of. For things like praying for one another, actually, it's all the resourcing, but it's also just that connection, because we all need that, actually, whatever our role in church. So we dream sometimes as a UCAN board of, actually, when somebody steps into any admin role, we want them to know that UCAN exists, so they are never alone as an administrator in church.
Yeah, I love that. And everything that I've experienced so far with UCAN has been real relational, the opportunity to ask questions, the opportunity to interact with other churches and learn from one another. It's great. And I know you guys, it's not just a big network, but you've got local groups that meet together that really do meet in person, before the lockdown. I know that's changed things, but people are still connecting on Zoom. I know churches hugely benefit, and I know I've hugely benefited from going and visiting a church and seeing how they operate. And you guys facilitate all of that. And I think, I love the fact that, that sense that you're not on your own in this, that you can go to talk to people who are like-minded, who get it straight away. It doesn't need an explanation to a question, to lead into a question. You can just ask the questions. And I know your Facebook forum that you've got is really active as well. Tell us a bit about that, Andy.
Yeah, so the Facebook forum is probably the online presence of that embodiment of what it is to be a membership network. Because there are hundreds of members of the Facebook forum, and they are continually asking questions, providing answers, sharing templates, sharing encouragements or humour with each other, just to make it that much easier to get through the week. And again, one of the great things about it is, yes, some of the central UCAN team members, we keep an eye on it, we moderate it a bit, and we chip in some answers. We don't need to provide all the answers, because there are some really competent, wise administrators and ops leaders out there who are taking time out their week, because it's their community, to say, I've got an answer to that. And that's really brilliant to see. That's sort of grown in vibrancy over the last 2 or 3 years. Really came into its own over the last 18 months as well, with and that sort of side of things. So it's a significant part of what we do, and one which just brings us a great smile whenever we open up and go, wow, look, the UCAN community has been so active this week.
Yeah, and I love it. Even things like there's practical things, there's policies, there's different things like that. But somebody shared on there the other day, that they were walking through a tough situation, and they, were just asking for prayer, or you're aware of situations. And I was praying for a lady that I've never met before, and in a church that I don't even know, but you can play a small part in the network in just a quiet way in the background as well, which I love all of that. The big highlight for me this year of the UCAN work was the Cutting Edge conference. Just loved it. Loved the opportunity to hear you guys speak, and loved the topics. That must be a real highlight and a thrill for you guys in the year, or in the every couple of years that you do it. Tell us a bit about the conference and what you guys are doing there.
So it was our highlight too. We just say, Gavin, we haven't had chance. We've got a board meeting next week where we're going to really look at all the feedback, the reviews, kind of as always, as administrators, grab the learnings from it. But I'm sure some of that conversation is just going to be, actually, wasn't it brilliant? And that's not to do with us, that's to do with the network. That actually, and just to praise God, because it was such, who knew actually that a digital conference could have such a sense of community? Who knew that the Holy Spirit could encourage people so well down the internet? And it was the hope, it's what we were praying for. But for that conference, it was over 3 days, and it was all about navigating change. And there was some pre-recorded seminars in it, some Zoom breakout rooms. And for me, that was the real highlight of actually seeing people after those sessions meeting together over Zoom and having, really open, honest conversations, digging into the material a little bit more. It was such fun to do, actually being there. We were in the studio in Guildford, just hosting it through. The team together, just being able to kind of like yourselves, delegates that were there, and have some contact with them. We knew we couldn't replicate all that we do when we have a physical event together every 2 years, but I was really chuffed that we managed to replicate the key things of connection, input, hearing from God, praying for one another, live Q&A. So yeah, it was a real highlight. That was me.
Yeah, love that. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I completely concur in the sense of it was a great highlight of the year. So pleased it's done now, because as everyone will know with these big events, it's a lot of work, and yes. it's no less work doing it digitally than online. It's in some ways it's more, but it's certainly different work, and the final few weeks in the run up to it were pretty hairy at points. I mean, as Jules said, it can't replace everything, and one of our sort of real joys from previous cutting edge events, and we tend to do every other year we do a residential, and then in the year between we do like a day event. People love getting together, and they love the networking opportunities, both the formal ones and the informal ones. They love the coffee breaks. They love seeing different people as they go to different seminar rooms. So we're booked for our residential in 2022, and we're looking forward to that. But that's certainly going to be a hybrid event. We will stream that as well, and we will offer digital tickets, because a number of people contacted us after this one saying this was the first cutting edge conference that I was able to get to, having wanted to go to so many of them in the past, because either I never made time to get away from my office desk to be at the conference center, or I wasn't permitted to do it. And there's always that sort of wrestle in church life. Is churches aren't that good at putting aside either the budget for training events, or even the permission for people to do it. And we see in the world of ops and admin that some people are really hesitant about asking, can I go on this? Because, it's almost like that question of, am I worth investing in? Is my role worth investing in?
Yeah.
It's a real sadness that's a reality that some people live in. Our encouragement is you are so worth investing in.
Yes.
Actually, it's healthy for your church to recognise that, and that's why we've always, as UCAN, have offered bursary placements and discounts. If money's an issue for a church, there's ways around that. We just
Great.
want to be at the event. But this year, one of the great feedback was it was digital. I could get there, so we will certainly be continuing with that. And over the last few weeks, to hear from certain delegates who emailed in to say, actually, God spoke to me through this digital event about something which was so timely about what I'm going through at church at the moment.
Yes.
And for some of them, it was, I didn't see a way forward before this. Now, I'm going to put X, Y, and Z in place, and that's going to help. So, yeah, I mean, the highlights at UCAN are always when we get to engage with our members and hear from our members. It's just wonderful. It's great to see the impact.
Yeah, I love that. And if you're a pastor listening to this podcast or watching it, then if you've got somebody in an administrative or operations role, then please do, send them along to this conference, give them the time to be able to do it. Loads of worship leaders or kids ministry or youth ministry, they go on these conferences and they come back just refreshed and blessed. And it makes a difference. And I think it needs to be prioritized in the same way for your administrative staff. And I know you guys would definitely echo that indeed. Tell me a bit about the content, and can it be made available to other people who didn't get to the conference? If you're listening to this now and thinking, oh, talking about change and thriving in change, that was the topic, and go, I'd really like to connect and hear more about that. What's the process for that, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of our events, we capture, we record, and they will be put up onto our shop at some point as a digital product. It takes a bit more time for us to actually get that packaged up and available. I don't know about the price of that yet, but it'll be a greater reduction on what the ticket price was to come along. So certainly sometime by the time we get to the autumn, that will all be there. To be honest, if people want to access it in advance of that, just drop us an email at info@churchadministrators.net. All of our contact details are on our website.
Great.
We can find a way for you to access it. Yeah, I mean, it's a significant time of change at the moment. So if there's content that we have which can help support you in that, then please do get in touch. Yeah,
I just thought all of the sessions were outstanding, and definitely worth a listen as a church administrator or operations director. Jules, for the future for UCAN then, I know people are getting back to churches meeting together, and for church administrators and op leaders, it's going to get busy and stuff. What's the plan for UCAN over the next year? Have you guys got things that you're allowed to share that are coming out that you're involved in? Fill us in with the next year ahead.
Yeah, sure, happy to. So the one, I think more of the same is where we're at. So we know the foundational things. We're still wanting to deepen more local groups. Actually, we would love to hear from anybody that is saying, actually, I'm not part of a local group. There probably isn't one around with me. Get in touch with us, because we just want to broaden that relational reach, for us is really important. So we need to do investment work in that, because as both Andy and I have said, it's all about the relational piece. Mm-hmm. What certainly I've seen in both UCAN and my new writing role is just the Lord's been at work in this last season during the lockdown. I know he always is, but there's something about Kingdom partnerships and working really well together. So there's some exciting work that's we're going to be doing in coming months, particularly in the area of professional HR support, working alongside stewardship and others. So that's the next thing really. That's really we want to really say, okay, what are the key issues? And all the time we hear from the people in our network and beyond that HR, and particularly advice of working well in teams, of that really key role between lead ops people and church pastors or vicars. Yes. That's really our heart in UCAN, is to unify. And we're really clear on that. So that we'll probably that's a theme for us to do more work in that area, because there is a danger that if we're all for the spiritual gift of administration and admin and ops, but what we don't want to do is take that gift, all those individuals, and kind of have those conversations about, it's really hard to work with our church leader, because it's not, it's a joy, and it should be. Yeah. But in every relationship, there's challenges. So I think for us, just deepening the toolkit of how we work alongside and support that key role. The pastors, vicars that are listening into this, we are for you, and we are making sure our membership are for you as well. So those two areas, HR, working well together with your first chair, and local groups, are some of the things that we're just looking at deepening.
Love that. Anything else to add to that, Andy?
No, I mean, I'd echo that. HR is our next big focus. We've been intensively working on a HR support service, which will be being launched certainly sometime in the autumn, and we see that as an area which needs significant attention. But I'm also looking forward to getting some, tentatively some physical face-to-face appointments back in the diary. And there were some venues that we were due to go to on our Communicating with Impact area roadshow in early 2019 that we had to cancel, and we're looking forward to getting back out there. Again, that's one of the great joys I've experienced in UCAN, is traveling around the country, meeting with a dozen administrators here, 20 or 30 there, etc., and spending a day together saying, right, how can we hone our skills? How can we encourage each other? So I am so looking forward to the ability to be able to be with people again, and we just have to pray that one in, I think.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely right. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for sharing your heart for UCAN, and just love you guys, love what you guys are doing and about. If you're listening to the podcast, you're not involved in the UCAN network, then please do check out their website. Please look at how you can get involved in their membership, in their training, in the Cutting Edge Conference. Please look at all those different aspects. They will help you and support you in your work. So big fans of UCAN, and lovely to be able to both talk to you. And I know we've got a podcast planned for the future to come and actually sit and talk about some different issues that are facing church administrators and church operations. So look out for both of these guys on the podcast again.
Well, thank you for joining us today on the podcast. It's been lovely to have you. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion with UCAN. Looking forward for the church office and UCAN to partner together in the coming months. Well, if you have any questions or any topics that you'd like us to cover, please get in contact with us at info@thechurchoffice.co.uk. We'd love to hear your feedback, your encouragement. We'd love to hear things that we could be doing better to serve and resource you in your role. Well, from me, it's goodbye until next time. Thank you.